Okay, folks, it's your buddy Mike Messier. That's me. And I just saw in 3D Venom, there, Let There Be Carnage. Venom, Let There Be Carnage is the actual title. And I think behind me you can see the movie poster. Some nice movie posters. I'm at the nice theater. Unfortunately, there's a car just sitting there milling about right in front of me, so you might hear some background fodder. What did I think of this movie? On the positive note, I did think that the 3D. I'm going to move a little bit to get away from these humanoids. I thought that the 3D stuff was pretty damn good. As in, I did see the movie in 3D, which was no upcharge, which was nice. A lot of times these movies theaters upcharge you, even with the subscription plan. You'll get jacked $1 or $2 or whatever. But there was no upcharge here at AMC for Carnage in 3D. I'm glad I saw it in 3D. I think if I didn't, I really wouldn't have liked it. Now, here's the thing. Sometimes you have to follow your gut instincts, folks. I was telling myself I really wanted to see Skyfall. It's another one of these Daniel Craig, James Bond movies. I think I did see that one with Adele years ago, and that was playing tonight at 8. But the timing just worked so that I was here when this 3D Carnage was playing, and I just said, well, I'll bang that out. I really just wasn't up for a 3D movie. Like, it's just a different mindset. Like, your brain needs to do a little more work. Like, you can't take a nice little nap in the fucking 3D movies. And I'll be honest, I just should have listened to my instincts. I should have maneuvered my scheduling to see the movie that I felt like seeing. Because I just wasn't really up for this type of movie today, this loud Marvel Studios movie. And to be honest, maybe you guys can help me out, guys and women that are watching this in the live stream. If you're watching this live, it's Monday night, 8:30. I know a lot of you are probably watching or suffering through Monday Night Raw if you're wrestling fans. But, I'm not going to torture myself and watch that program tonight. Hashtag Raw protest. But can I ask, was this Venom movie a sequel? I mean, was it a sequel to another movie that I didn't see? Because the movie started off pretty strong, but I'm like, okay, there's no story building here. There's no character building. There's no intro to this thing. Why this guy Eddie has this venom crawling out of his back. Did I miss the original movie? Is this like one of those sequels that doesn't have a 2 after it? Which I kind of can't stand. Like, I don't like this newfangled thing of sequels not having a number. Like, they're just, oh, it's just another Suicide Squad. This is the Suicide Squad, not Suicide Squad, and you should figure it out. I mean, just the pompousness of these movie studios to just crank out these fucking movies and not give us a sequel number. So here's the thing, folks. If you are familiar with this Carnage story, like if you know all these characters, Venom and Carnage, and I kept thinking this is like some type of Spider-Man thing, isn't it? Here's another car. There's just all these vehicles that are just doing weird things. I just might have to be quiet for a moment when these people do this, but to me, I was waiting for Spider-Man to come out in this thing. Spoiler, there is a little cameo of Spider-Man later, but I was thinking that Spider-Man was going to be in this movie the whole time, and he wasn't. So I just didn't understand it. I didn't really understand a lot of things going on in this film. So it was confusing to me. There's some type of transaction going on here. I'm not sure what's going on. There's some type of transaction in the background. Some type of transaction going on in the parking lot. But to me, it was just like some type of transaction going on. Some type of transaction going on. I don't know if this has anything to do with Brian Laundrie or some type of transaction going on. But in any event, the movie was just a lot of hype and a lot of craziness and a lot of like, oh, look at this crazy effect and look at that crazy effect. And I'm willing to go with the film or any film like that. but you have to kind of hook me in emotionally first. And I think that's where this movie for me failed, did not succeed, is they did not hook me in emotionally before they start throwing all this CGI crap and all these lame jokes. And the movie felt very 1997 to me for some reason. Like it felt like a million other fucking movies I've seen where let's just hype up some crazy shit and throw it on the screen. And but I'm not hooked in emotionally. I have no emotional involvement. And I guess on a bigger sense, and some of you Venom fans or whatever the fucks can answer this, but are you folks reading all these comic books? Like I go out and about in public, I don't see everybody sitting there reading comic books or graphic novels. Like how are people familiar with all these fucking stories? I don't see human beings reading graphic novels in public or discussing them. Like, oh, I just read the fucking Venom 37. I mean, yes, there are comic book stores and graphic novel stores, but not to the extent that should warrant all these fucking movies or at least people understanding them. I mean, am I missing something? I don't know, because I don't see it happening that all the assholes in the movie theater going to see these graphic novel movies, these Marvel movies or these DC movies. I don't think you fucks are out there reading the comics. I don't. I could be wrong, but the asshole on the street's not sitting there, subscribing like it's 1988 to the fucking comic books and getting them in the mail and reading them and keeping up with them. I mean, that's kind of a niche thing. Am I right or am I wrong? Maybe I'm just missing the fuck out. Maybe everybody that I see in the world goes home at night and reads their periodicals of Marvel comics, and I'm just missing the boat. But in any goddamn event, I mean, look, Woody Harrelson's fine. Tom Hardy, who I always think of, like, he's one of those actors that you see his name and you're always seeing him in movies, but you can't really, like, he could be Brian Laundrie for all I fucking know, and I wouldn't know who Tom Laundrie is, or Tom Landry, whatever the fuck his name is. Tom Hardy. I mean, Tom Landry was the fucking coach of the Cowboys. So I don't know. I guess it just didn't hook in with me. I really wanted to see the goddamn fucking Tony Soprano movie, that nepotism benefactor, the son of James Gandolfini. But somebody had a fucking tweet how horrible the goddamn thing was. So that threw me off base. There's always some asshole on Twitter that has to say, oh, this movie sucked, so much dick. It's like, well, can you keep it to your fucking self? There's just people that want to go see the fucking movie right away and then tweet and twat about how shitty it was. See, I do a goddamn video review. I don't just tweet words on a fucking screen that people can't escape. If you want to engage in this review, you have to click on the video. So anyway, this fucking Venom thing, I don't know. Maybe it was me. I wasn't up for the movie. I went to spite myself because I wanted to make the clock work for me. I should have listened to Once a Fucking Again, my gut instinct, and not seen the movie today and gone a different day. But I went today, and I just don't. I feel like the movie is unsatisfying to me because I really didn't know what the fuck it was about. Like this phenomenon of this guy with this fucking thing grown out of his back, like this alter ego, was pretty cool, and the graphics and the 3D was pretty good. But I had no indication of why this is happening. So once again, I'm feeling like, was this a sequel to a movie that I didn't see? Like I didn't see the first one, but I don't recall a Venom Part 1 coming out. I mean, if this had said Venom 2, Let There Be Carnage, I would have been informed and I could have made the appropriate decision about whether or not to see the first one in advance of seeing this one. But I don't even know if there was one or not, because all these fucking movies don't even give you the goddamn sequel number anymore, because that's passe. And this fucking universe thing is pissing me off. Oh, you have to see all these 39 other movies in order to fully comprehend and appreciate this one. Go fuck yourself with that. That's annoying to me, okay? It really fucking is. I'm sick of these universes. It's laziness. It's a way to bait you in to see all these goddamn movies. Oh, you have to see Superman 6 because if you don't, you won't understand the Avengers 3. Oh, okay. And if you see the Avengers 3, make sure you see Thor Part 1 and 2 and Aquaman Part 16. Otherwise, your dick will be falling off in the middle of the theater. Well, what the fuck? You know what I mean? So it all upsets me. okay, I was going to take on this AEW goddamn thing for wrestling fans. I guess that's the end of the fucking movie review. So I guess I didn't like it. I mean, for lack of a better term, I didn't understand it. The air conditioning was nice, though, and I took my fucking shoes off in the theater. So how about that? Now, as far as this AEW thing, AJ had a question, or he was kind of bold in his question, AJ. So I'll give you credit, buddy. But he's like, why doesn't AEW have storylines? Right? I'm like, well, buddy, I don't know if I agree with that. I think what it is, AJ's question is, why doesn't AEW have storylines? And I'm saying they do. And I think the difference, buddy, is AEW is telling their storylines, or their stories are developing in a different way than what you're used to if you've been watching primarily WWE for 15 years. Now, also, AEW does some things that are highly unusual with their storylines. For instance, as Jim Cornette put out, and I always try to give credit if I remember who said something first, the Pinnacle feud with the fucking Inner Circle, their first thing was like a beatdown. Their second thing was a beatdown. Then their third thing was a fucking that cage match that I went to. That was fun. The whatever the fuck, the double cage match, blood and guts, right? Now you traditionally think that the two feuding factions have to have a bunch of singles matches and tag team matches and 6-man tags, or trios, as the kids say. But they just started off with a fucking humdinger of a blood and guts match. Now this is also because, folks, AEW does not have the schedule that Jim Crockett Promotions had in 1987. They don't have a Great American Bash where they're working different towns every night. They're literally at some point in the middle of a fucking worldwide situation, as I call it. They're doing like one show a week. So they don't have the benefit, Jim Cornette, if I have to educate him, they don't have a 6-day or a 7-day a week schedule of wrestling matches with house shows. It's not in the 1980s. We're in the middle of a worldwide pandemic. So they have to alter their course. And ultimately, AEW is, their revenue is from ad sales and, to a lesser extent, pay-per-view. So, I mean, when people like Jim Cornette or whoever the fuck try to apply, Jim Crockett thinking, and I hate to say it, but Jim Crockett Promotions went out of business, Jim Cornette, so they didn't know all the fucking things in the world either. But when you try to apply 2021 logic, or 2020, if you try to apply 1987 wrestling logic to 2021 wrestling, it's not going to work. You have to adapt, and the adaptation is AEW is running 2 shows a week if they're lucky, a pay-per-view, and a Dynamite, and a Dark, and an Elevation. So I mean, they're running television for the most part. They're not really the one and only fucking house show they did. I went to the House Always Wins, which if you're good, you can discover on the fucking Subscribe to Mike Messier YouTube list. Some bootleg clips, if you would, exclusive. So the point of all this is that the storylines are there. I mean, the FTR had a storyline with Santana and Ortiz, but there's limited time on their television. So it's just different, is all I can tell you. I mean, I'm trying to make this succinct, but there is storylines going on in AEW. Cody, for all the hate that he gets, good or bad or whatever, he has had a lot of storyline matches. The Brian Pillman MJF feud, as short as it was, a 1-match feud, that's a storyline. I guess if you're thinking that a storyline has to be like WWE, WWE does the same match like 3 or 4 weeks in a row. I mean, they've talked about that. Alvarez has pointed it out. How many times have you seen the same match on Raw over and fucking over again? You know what I mean? So I don't know what to tell you, AJ, buddy. I mean, they do fucking storylines. It's just different than the way WWE does it. It's an attempt on AEW's part, I believe, to do storylines like they were doing them 15 or 20 or 30 years ago. Is that attempt successful? Maybe, maybe not. But I think the difference with it, I mean, it's like no matter what you do, you're not going to satisfy somebody. Because I listen to Brian Alvarez on Wrestling Observer Radio, and he's always bitching and complaining that the WWE has the same match over and over again. It's Doudrop versus Elvira, or whatever her fucking name is, Eve or whatever, the hot chick. And she's not even that hot anymore, let's be honest. I mean, she's a little long in the tooth. You know what I mean? The redheaded broad. woman. Sorry. So they do have storylines in AEW. It's just a different way of doing things. That's all, buddy. That's all. I mean, I don't know what else to say. I mean, even if you look at Penelope Ford and the Orange Cassidy and the marriage, it was a storyline. I mean, if it was successful or if it was well executed, that's for you to determine. I will say that here you go. It's kind of like these two companies are on opposite ends of the spectrum. For the last year, 2 years, WWE will do rematch after fucking rematch. It's always like some challenger gets a match on a pay-per-view. They don't win the title the first time, then they do a rematch. I mean, I'm just thinking about like Samoa Joe challenging AJ Styles 2 or 3 times. Roman Reigns challenging Brock fucking Lesnar 5 or 6 times. Um, Whatever the fuck, challenging whoever the fuck 5 or 6 times. And AEW, it's like, okay, they had one Cody versus MJF big pay-per-view match. MJF wins with the loaded ring to the head, and that's it. So I get it. It's like AEW only has one match or very limited match between the participants, and WWE beats those matches to death. You don't have a nice in-between zone, which I understand. So it's, if, like I said, if you've grown up with the prism or with the goggles, as they say, we all see life through a different pair of goggles. If your pair of goggles have been tinted color WWE fucking E, and now you're watching this AEW, it may seem odd to you or different or unusual or weird or not right. But if, like myself, your wrestling education goes back to the territory days, as I've discussed, world-class championship wrestling. Look at the goddamn Freebirds Von Erich saga. They were friends, they feuded, they were friends, they feuded, back and forth and back and fucking forth. So there you go. I'm just trying to educate. Hold on. Just more people. So I'm just trying to tell you everything that I can tell you in a short amount of time. There are AEW storylines, folks. It's just different, like I said. And I think that's one thing that a whole generation of fucks who grew up in the WWE, post WCW era with TNA, a very severe number 2. And I think, people forget about Impact Wrestling or what their contributions were, or the fact that you did have an alternative for a long time. Total Nonstop Action, more people are coming. But people forget about Impact was even there, but they were. Okay. Hold on. There's more people walking by me. The point is, there has been alternative. I guess I'm going to another point. There has been TNA. We just forget about TNA. But, there has been other ways of experiencing pro wrestling other than the WWE prism or the WWE presentation. I hate that fucking word that Conrad uses. By the goddamned way, I guess I'm just a Monday night madness, Messier madness here. I did listen to the Jeff Jarrett fucking podcast. Shout out to my buddy there, nice guy, Adam Demoy, presented me with a wonderful What's in the Box, which you should all watch and get inspired from and do what Adam did the other night. But I did listen to the Jeff Jarrett selling Total Nonstop Action Wrestling to Panda Energy, which I thought was a great listen. So if you're a ad-free shows guy or a Conrad Thompson guy, the Jeff Jarrett show about selling the Panda was pretty damn good. I'm listening to the Bischoff Halloween Havoc 94. I almost turned it off a few times because Bischoff was just repeating himself when he was just shooting down Meltzer. I mean, Conrad tried to shut Eric up about it, but I think Eric really needs to fucking like put a fucking rubber band around his wrist and get whacked every time he goes on his Dave Meltzer made up shit rant, because it's getting a little bit old, Eric, to be honest with you. So I try to listen, but it's like, because I'm curious about the behind the scenes of Halloween Havoc 94, but every time Conrad brings up something that Meltzer said 30 years ago, I don't need to hear Eric deconstruct the same old deconstruction. So we all have to fucking watch ourselves. You know, it's easy to fall into these traps of becoming like a programmed puppet where you just say the same stupid shit you already said. And I'm guilty of that. I mean, a lot of my rants have a similar type of message that you have to grow the fuck up and you can't just watch stupid, dumb fucking wrestling all the time. And you know, and I try to live that myself. I mean, I had a relatively light release of videos this past weekend. I try to go to the cinema more because I mean that's what I fucking do. I mean, oddly goddamned enough, although I'm equally versified and talented in both wrestling and fucking entertainment, I've had more luck or more success or more acceptance in the film world. I mean, who the fuck else do you know that's stolen a scene from Meryl Streep and Elizabeth Shue? I know one person. That person's me. You know what I mean? Yet the WWE and their idiocracy can't recognize my talents because they're idiots. Idiots. So there you fucking have it. So any goddamned way, I like this fucking... actually, I didn't like this fucking movie. See, I'm so used to saying that I like this fucking movie. I really liked the card counter the other night. This fucking thing, I don't know. I'm looking at this Jungle Cruise poster. For whatever the fuck reason, I like that movie. That movie's more fun than this goddamn Venom thing. Okay, so there you go, folks. I don't know. I hope that this has satisfied your fucking need for answers. AJ with the AJ fucking AEW question. I try to help. I try to give my points of interest. I don't know if I'm forgetting some topics. I mean, a lot of people. Eric's out there. Thanks, Eric, for all your contributions. He's making a lot of. Buddy, I just don't know if I have time to watch all this deathmatch stuff. You're sending me a lot of deathmatch wrestling, bro. But I really just, I don't know. I'm just a busy guy, as you might be able to tell. I mean, Christ, look. So anyway, folks, that's it. Subscribe to Mike Messier YouTube channel. As I always say, it's only Monday. We've got the whole week to fuck up. Subscribe to Mike Messier YouTube channel. Look at all these selections.